Welcome to my channel. I'm Dani Marie AUC, and today we are going to explore some of the design basics when designing a house for someone with a visual impairment. Let's jump in. If you would like to support my channel, you can do so by liking, sharing, subscribing, and commenting. I have a visual impairment, and I also recently moved. And since that move, I've been exploring some of the things that I'd like in my house. And that includes things that make me happy, things that make my life easier, and things that make my home feel welcome. Because I am a big fan of having people over once that becomes normal again. Here, I'm just going to talk about some of the very basic things to keep in mind when designing a house for someone who's blind or visually impaired. Because many of these topics could definitely be covered individually in separate videos. There's actually more to these topics than you would think. It is a weird misconception that people who are blind and visually impaired don't care how their space looks. We certainly do, and we all have our own unique preferences. Now, some of those preferences may not be for the same reasons that someone without a visual impairment has. Sometimes how our space looks and feels is even more important. The first key design basic is organization. Okay, it can be said for many of us that a chaotic living space or a chaotic environment causes chaos on the inside. I certainly am one of those people. If there are things strewn everywhere and I walk into a room and I can see that but not know what everything is, it gives me anxiety. And that's not a unique problem. It's not. But for many who are blind and visually impaired, a chaotic space that's disorganized and it makes you unable to find your things, that's a quality of life issue. So imagine you're someone with working eyes, okay, and you lose an item. You can't remember where you put it. You spend, 10, 20, 30 seconds looking around a room. Oh, look, there's my item. Someone with a visual impairment or someone who is completely blind might spend 20 to 30 minutes looking in that same room for something. And we may or may not find it. I cannot tell you the number of times that I have dropped something. Oh, God forbid it's something small like an earring or one of my gauges. Because I will spend 10 minutes crawling around on the floor to no avail. Flashlight, phone light, anything I can use to try and help me find it. And I have zero luck. My partner walks in. His eyes work pretty well. Looks around for 10 seconds and says, "Oh, it's right there. Yeah, right there by your foot. You almost stepped on it. Yep." The frustration I feel when that happens is ridiculous. Let me just tell you. Truly, when you lose something like that, or maybe you're just somebody who has trouble remembering where you put your things, because there are just people who struggle with that more than others. If you don't have a home for your things and you're spending all of your time looking for them, that's going to eat into all of your time. It's a quality of life issue. It's frustrating. It's tiring. And this is even more difficult when you live with someone else. Living with someone else means you share that space with them, means their stuff is there living next to your things, and your things are there living next to their things, and sometimes the two things get mixed. Sometimes maybe the other person moves some of your things around. And for most people, that's just a very, very minuscule annoyance, you know? Again, the 10 or 20 seconds, so, oh, it's over there on that table. Okay, there it is right there. But for somebody who is blind and visually impaired, it's frustrating. We don't want to spend 20 or 30 minutes looking for one misplaced item, especially when we weren't the ones who misplaced it. But this topic could be his own video topic, truly. I have had many discussions with many other people in the blind and visually impaired community who go through that same problem. So what this means for design is that we need to have a place for things. We need to organize the cabinets. We need to organize the drawers. Drawer dividers and shelves inside cabinets are a lifesaver. I have so many dividers and so many of my drawers. Before I moved, I did an overhaul on my bathroom, which has quite a lot of storage. I was very lucky to have a very huge bathroom. And when I overhauled those drawers and put drawer dividers and storage boxes for all the little things separated, it was life-changing. And it made life easy, because if I needed something, I knew all of my skincare stuff was right here. All of my extra travel tooth items were in this section, and all of my ponytails were in this section. It's truly the little things that make life easier, less frustrating, and just more enjoyable, truly. Design basic number 2 is texture. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with my love for texture, I have an entire playlist on it. Well, it's a short playlist for now, but it's growing. It's growing. But I will link that above and below in the description for those who want to check it out. I'm a huge fan of texture, and the reason why is because so many of us in the blind and visually impaired community explore our environment by touch. Touch is so important to us. It's important to most people, but it's extra important to us because touch gives us some sense that we have lost, you know? It's like touch gives us back some of our senses that we've lost to our vision. So it is just as important to have a space filled with textures that make you feel comfortable and to make you feel at home. Things that make you happy when you touch them, because that does exist. At least it does for me. Now, texture is definitely a personal preference. I will tell you some of the textures that I have in my home that I love, but this varies from person to person. So for me, in my living room, I have pillows with fur on them that is so soft and so enjoyable to touch. I have pillows that are velvety. My couches are almost like a microfiber, super soft suede feel. I don't know what the actual material is. I am not a design expert, but I love the way they feel. I also have pillows with different textures on the same pillow. Like there's a raised design on one of my pillow sets, and I love it. I love it so much. It brings me joy when I touch it, when I move it, when I put it where it goes and I fluff it. It's silly, but it's true. I also enjoy natural textures, things like woods and metal and stone, and these things also make me happy. So why should I not incorporate them into my design? Now, there are definitely some in the community who enjoy things like reflective surfaces and shiny things, glitter, sequins, metallics, and things like that. And I appreciate that and where it comes from. That's not for me, but that's a personal preference. But for those who watch Molly Berg, she does mention specifically that she loves anything that can reflect light, because for her, most of her vision is light perception. And that's true for some people. And they may prefer those types of things. They may not prefer those types of things. Again, I want to say that texture is a personal preference. We are all very different when it comes to that. I also want to add that for those like me who have light sensitivity, reflective surfaces aren't always very fun, because light flashing through the window and bouncing off of something reflective and into my eye can literally hurt. So keep that in mind if you're designing a space for a child with a visual impairment, or a friend or family member with a visual impairment, or just somebody in general. That's important to keep in mind. You need to ask them about those things, you know? You need to know if they're light sensitive, if light bothers their eyes at all. And that brings us to design basic number 3, adjustable lighting. Adjustable lighting is so important for anybody who deals with light sensitivity. Honestly, adjustable lighting is important for most people, and it can be done in many ways, okay? From the budget friendly to the very expensive smart lighting, options that are out there. But on the budget end, some cheap blinds or some curtains that don't cost very much to control the window lighting. And in a room, that can mean anything from various lamps around the room that can be affordable and turned on and off at will, to smart light bulbs and smart switches and even smart blinds. If I'm ever lucky enough to have smart blinds, I'm just gonna say that would be wonderful, but I don't plan on it. Honestly, that sounds pretty expensive. But I am a fan of smart lighting, and if you haven't seen my recent video about my smart home, where I do discuss my favorite smart light bulbs at the moment, you can check it out above and below, again in the description. Smart lighting, oh gosh. When I went to smart lighting, it changed my life in a weird way, okay? I don't like huge overhead lighting because it's intense, it's aimed directly into one spot, it's usually not diffused very well, and it doesn't provide light to the whole room where you might need it. So there ends up being shadowy parts of the room that, suddenly have lower contrast. So you might be walking through your room and somebody might have left something on the floor, but it's in that dark corner of the room where light doesn't reach. So you've either stubbed your toe on it or kicked it across the room, depending on the item. And that's a real life scenario for you. But it's adjustable lighting, again, it's a preference too. But it's about having light where you need it when you need it. And for me, say I'm working during the day, I need light. I'm using a huge light right now, but it's a softbox, so it's diffused and it's not super intense. It's manageable, even on days where my eyes are like, and I've had a lot of those days recently. So the importance of smart lighting is amplified right now. Sometimes you need all the light, and sometimes at the end of the day, or when your eyes are having an extra tired day, which does happen to many of us, you need to turn the lights down. And yeah, maybe you can still get some work done, but get it done in a dimmer environment where maybe your eyes can take a little break. This one, if you don't do anything else in this list, this one's really important. And how you go about it is up to you, and it's up to your budget, and it's up to your preference. But consider adding this into your home. Level of light sensitivity varies so much from person to person, and sometimes in the same person from day to day. So I'm having a pretty good light day today. I'm doing good. Yesterday I was really struggling. I woke up and my eyes were already sore. So it can vary so much depending on the day and depending on the person. So keep that in mind as well. And also keep in mind that many of the environments we spend most of our time in, offices, shops, schools, and classrooms, they have an overwhelming amount of lighting coming from the ceiling. Sometimes the windows too. And we can't usually control that. So when we spend all day in those environments being overwhelmed by light, and it can feel overwhelming for those of us with light sensitivity, it's so nice to come home and be able to turn the lights down, work off of some warm lamp lighting, or whatever it is that you feel comfortable in. It's inviting, and it's soothing, and it's calming and comforting, all of those wonderful, wonderful adjectives. If you guys want to learn more about photophobia and light sensitivity, I also have a playlist on that above, and I will link it below for anybody who wants to check it out. My fourth design basic is entirely about the kitchen, but it includes all three of the previously mentioned design basics. And this, of course, is for those who get in the kitchen and cook. But, even if you're not a big fan of cooking, you're going to be in the kitchen at some point, whether it's to grab food or heat up your takeout or whatever it may be, whatever it is that you prefer, you're going to be in there at some point. Organization is so important in a kitchen because some areas of your kitchen have so many items in them. I will give you an example. My spice cabinet, it needs some serious help. And if you have spice cabinet solutions, feel free to send them my way because I need all the help I can get. But it's a mess in there. Yes, our most used items kind of sit toward the front. But if I need something obscure, I'm going to be standing there in front of the spice cabinet, pulling every item out, holding it to my face and reading it. Or, God forbid, if I can't read it, I'm going to pull out my phone and take a picture of it and then enlarge it and look at it. It is so important to have things organized in the kitchen. And even more, if you can have them labeled in an accessible way, that's golden right there. Whether your accessible labels be large print, bold, or even like sections in boxes that are labeled, as a category. Or smart labels. Smart labels is pretty fascinating. It can consist of QR codes, barcodes, or any other kind of codes you can scan with either a phone camera, a smart pen, or any other kind of label reader. It is fascinating the amount of labeling systems that exist right now, and maybe that's something we'll cover in the future as well. Do keep this in mind. This is important for dishes too, especially for me, where I do rely on some of my usable vision, which has been known to fail me at times. Take, for instance, a cabinet that has various types of glasses. I organize my glasses by type because I usually know what I'm going to go in there to grab. But the issue with glasses is that they're glass and they're clear usually. Yes, you can get colored glasses or plastic. I'm just not a fan of plastic glasses. Okay, that's preference. But I'll go to reach for it. And if somebody has a glass in front where maybe it's not supposed to go, I have run my hand into many a glass item and broken it. It's not a rare occurrence, but it's something to keep in mind. Keep your cabinets organized and put things back where they go. Texture is also important, but again, I've mentioned this as a preference. The real important thing about textures to remember in a kitchen is that you have easy to clean items. You have an easy to clean counter, hopefully, maybe a stovetop that's easy to clean. Now, stovetops are their own topic, and many visually impaired and blind people have different preferences for that kind of thing, and maybe we'll discuss that later. But having things that are easy to clean and also having non-slip textures, whatever that may mean for you. So non-slip mats on the floor, non-slip items, or the little stickers that are non-stick under your cutting board, your butcher block, whatever it may be. Just do your best to make sure that the environment is safe and easy to use for someone who is blind or visually impaired. And that can mean a lot of different things to different people, but on this very basic level, we're aiming for safety. So nobody wants to slide around in the kitchen floor while holding a dish or a knife or anything like that. And we want our cutting area or our serving area or our cooking area to be secure. So we don't want things sliding around while we're trying to cut them on the cutting board. So keep that in mind. There are all sorts of budget-friendly solutions for this as well. I have literally just placed non-slip stickers on the bottom of some of my items that sit on my counter, and it makes a world of difference. Lighting in your kitchen is also important. And I'm just going to say, again, this varies by person, but when you're working, you might need a lot of light. But again, you also might be standing at the kitchen sink working, and you might be one of those who are lucky enough to have a window at their kitchen sink where the sun can sometimes come in blaringly bright. And adjustable blinds or curtains is important here too. Because at my parents' house where I did used to live, often I would be standing at the sink and the sun would be coming through and I would just be washing the dishes with my eyes closed because it would be so intensely bright. Now, many of my washing tasks and some cooking tasks I do by feel anyway. So, as I said, this is a huge area where preference matters because each of us is different and has different situations and different needs. But again, this topic could be an entire video all on its own. keep an eye and an ear out for videos breaking these topics down a little further and just more good content. What are your favorite textures in your home? This one always fascinates me. Please let me know in the comments what's your favorite texture, or what's your favorite set of textures, or what are your favorite design elements? Do you like the reflective stuff, the metallics and things like that? Or do you like natural textures like me? Or are you a fan of fur and fuzzy and buttons and things like that? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, stay curious. Bye.